everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoy these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Hello, world, and welcome to yet another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. First and foremost, Pete Turner, my co-host, and I are going to be sharing a show with all of you today with regarding to current events, activities, divisions, unification. Boy, we got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So I would also like to wish the entire audience and world a happy Good Friday. As we know, this is the entrance now to the Easter weekend. And this is a very important time to me, a very solemn and humbling and holy time for myself and many others, I'm sure. And I saw Pete nodding his head there on screen, and he carries that love of Christ as I do within our hearts. So I want to wish every one of you to have a very special holiday weekend this weekend, a reverence and a relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now, Pete, what we talked about before the show today, what I want to bring into focus, and I think this is amazing, was about 3 weeks ago, I started an experiment on my Facebook account. And as everybody knows, as a Democrat, my standing on certain hardcore issues, my firm beliefs, my firm investigative work that I did through the courts, through deemed credible FBI interviews, all of this created a conclusion that I had come to. But in all fairness to everybody out there, this isn't a one-sided conversation. So what I did, Pete, was about 3 weeks ago, I started asking my Republican friends and family members and the Republican community out there that I don't even know, and invited them into a platform of mutuality and discussions relating to the extremism that we're all experiencing, if you will, about the current affairs, the Iran war, the economy crisis, the Epstein files, the corruption of government in both parties. And it really kind of touched me because for a few years I've had Republicans that would comment really horrifically towards me when I would be defending my belief in the materials that I had uncovered. And I never struck back on them hard like that, but I would try to explain it through. And vice versa. They would sit there and they would be argumentative, saying, well, look, this is my view on this subject, and this is where my view is created from and as a result of. So about 3 weeks ago, Pete, what I did was I started inviting the Republican Party to my Democratic site and saying, okay, let's put everything out there, show what you really truly believe to the extreme, and let's see if we can find a moment of unification between both sides and start getting, instead of attacking each other and having anger and animosity to each other, let's get into a mature place where we can actually respect one another, agree to disagree, and then verify through our own resources why we have come to the conclusions that we have come to. What do you think, Pete?
I mean, that's, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I care
know
about people, right? And I focus on the things that I have more control on or have experience in. At my best, at my worst, I run my mouth and I talk too much. But yeah, I think that creating opportunities for people to allow other people to be people where they're at, political, whatever, any kind of belief. We all don't believe the same things, and we don't believe them in the same time. We all evolve all the time. And so I think taking the time to try to create some kind of blending and gathering of people, fellowship, these are important things, because ultimately, whatever your political beliefs are, that's not why I love you. Like that's your way of expressing that part of how decisions should be made. All right, and I've got mine, and we may agree on who knows what the number is. It's going to be more than 50%. And then where we don't disagree, I'm not even interested in all that. I'm interested in you and how you do and being well and all the love that you give to other people. And so I think your experiment of running that and posting things and allowing others to have a more calm environment, I think is wonderful.
Thank you. I love you too, Pete. You know that. But I want to say that what prompted this decision to make this experiment come into motion was about 3 weeks ago, recognizing how angry, regardless of what party you're in, I would see that if people didn't agree with your personal thoughts and your personal feelings, that people would become aggressive to a point of absolute hostility and anger. And this really disturbed me because, we are so divided in our country right now for many reasons on both sides of the fence. But the most important thing we need to do is we need to get to a point, whether we agree or disagree or whatever, to have a mutual ground of respect for one another and self respect for ourselves. I confess, and I'll be the first one to confess, there's been times when I've gone off my rocker with somebody attacking me online, and I'll attack back. And then 5 minutes later, I'm sending a note of apology because that's not where I'm at in my heart or in my calling as a minister that I've been for 26 years. My purpose for doing this, Pete, was to try to show some of the most radicalized people on either side that there is a ground of commonality that we can all come to. And what I've seen, Pete, in the last 3 weeks of doing this experiment, originally people were getting mad at me, let's say the Democrat Party that I've been with for 46 years. They would say, why are you defending this Republican statement? Or why are you posting this Republican statement? And my response back to them would be, because everybody has a unified ground that we need to come to terms with so we can start making the peace and returning that and reclaiming that within our country. And at first, people didn't understand it, but as the days went by, Pete, and they would see the postings of equality, as much as I could make it equal, they started coming to terms with that and started showing a little more respect in their aggressiveness, if you will, to people that have been on my accounts for many, many years of both parties. And we're always in these horrible conflicts and horrible argumentative types of trying to make people understand why they should believe the way this person believes. Well, I don't agree with that. I believe that equality means that we have to consume all rights of all people and to find a basis of understanding, if you will, why someone may have a different approach or a different slant or a different view to whatever information they're processing. And then even if we don't agree with them, by golly, Pete, we should respect them regardless. That is their right. What do you think, brother?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about, here we are in the Holy Week. I think about the Sermon on the Mount, and that's
wow, perfect.
Matthew 5, at least the part I'm going for. And blessed are the peacemakers,
Yes,
and
Beatitudes.
that is, yeah. In the understanding that, like, and you said a critical word that I think it's easy to get out of step when you're online instead of sitting on a couch with someone else or sitting across the table at a cafe. Self-respect. I respect you, and I respect myself, and I'm not going to, at my best, I'm not going to allow myself to jump into anger, to jump into judgment, and I can withstand. Let's say you and I are completely opposed on how whatever that thing is that we're talking about, whatever it is. I can withstand that because I like freedom, and you are free to do almost any damned thing you want, and I don't have to like it. I do have to tolerate it because that's freedom. And if I can't let you be free, then I myself am not free. And so I think the self-respect and the peacemaking of these things, these are not intolerance. These are not easy things to get over. If I can, you hear me say all the time, at my best, if I could be better at being my best, I'm just less of a problem for everybody else, right? If I respect myself enough to act in a way that is closer to my best, all these things, then I can worry about what the president does or what the mullah does. Like, okay, I'll get to work on their work. But man, here's the whole thing with all of this stuff in my mind. I have enough business that I don't need to be in Hal's business, or I don't need to be in Tina's business or Debbie's business. I don't need to be in their business because I've got my own business, and my plate is full with wonderful things that inspire me. And the time I need, look, do I have some jaunty conversations with people? Sure, right, but
of course.
But the tolerance, the self-respect, and the peacemaking, I think, are central to what guys like us do. You see conflict all the time. You don't have to do the things that you do. The other day, I gotta go. I got someone, and we had to stop our conversation every day. You don't have to do that. You're certainly old enough to be like, I've had enough, but you continue to do it. And I imagine from our conversations, a lot of that has to do with the bill that you're trying to pay back. And you're like, I don't get to say this is too much damage for me to deal with. I have to do this because of who you are, what you've done, and how you live your life.
That's a really good comment with regard to my personal moral and ethical boundaries that are so translated and so changed from younger years of life.
Right.
And you're exactly right. And like you said, the other day, I had another person coming through that had just gone through a major process. I get a phone call at Providence. I got to run down and do last rites over a bedside. And at the same time, I have an addiction situation going on with somebody very close to me. And this is every single day of my life. And boy, you hit it. Sometimes I just want to lay down and not have to deal with it. I'm in my 70s now. I'm not a young buck anymore that can take the constant battering. But you know what? You also said something that really impacted just then to me, and that is that it is a payback because of my younger years of life. I was with the cartels. I was a very hostile, very violent, very dangerous man. I was in a very dangerous world, and that's how I survived it and climbed up the ladder to the successes of that industry that I ultimately achieved. But the last 26 years since I completed seminary, was formally ordained, was pulled out of federal prison to become a contractor for the DOJ, of which I did 17 years. At the same time, I was preaching the gospel of Christ in churches and guest speaking all over the area that I live in up here, and sitting in homeless camps at nighttime around a fire, talking to people that are stressing in their lifestyles, or getting a phone call of another overdose on fentanyl in a trap house that I'm 5 minutes away from, on and on and on. So, the payback is trying to be the moral and ethical example that we weren't before, but have become as a result of our translation and conversion into faith. I'm a devout Christian. I have a doctorate in pastoral counseling. I've devoted every day of the rest of my life to trying to have a better understanding of how I can represent Jesus. And that is to love each and every one of you and mean it. And as you know, Pete, when I was hit in 2020 by a contractor, I was left for dead. And by the grace of God, revived and was able to crawl to a door of one of my tenants and knock on it to get saved. And I remember when I came out of that coma, and the first thing that touched my heart was I forgave the man that was sent to kill me. And I totally meant it. I felt it. And I know what it's like to be handed a piece of paper with a name and an address on it. I've been down that route in earlier years of my life. So I understand a lot more from a different direction than most people could probably assimilate into that type of thinking. But what it became to me, Pete, was a conversion that I actually was what I have professed these years to have become. And that's a lover of all humankind. That is a person that is passionate regardless of the circumstances other people are going through. And that, Pete, is why I created this experiment 3 weeks ago. Because the hostilities that we Americans are forecasting to the world and doing to one another, it's horrific. But, I want to tell the audience right now, those of you that will be seeing this today, that in the last 3 weeks, specifically the last few days, I have known both Democrat and Republicans that would absolutely go after each other on different issues that I would be posting over the years. And now I see them hitting a table of communication. And I'm so very proud of them, because that's exactly why I did this experiment, was to say, folks, we've got to reunify. We've got to come together. And eschatologically speaking, Pete, through my many, many years of surveying the Bible, to work on my doctorate, my secondary in college was eschatology, in days prophecies. And, last year when the 2 red heifers were delivered from Montana State to Israel, and hearing about the foundation work of the third temple being constructed at this present date and time, it's already in play. They're already starting to build it. And the third temple, of course, we know it, 3.5 years of the tribulation, 7 years, is when the Antichrist will walk in, declare his deityism, and blaspheme the church. And last year, in the fall of last year, we know that an agreement was signed between Palestine and Israel. And Scripture tells us about that. And that is purportedly the actual moment of the 7-year tribulation coming into play. It's one principle, one theory anyway. I tend to believe it based on my years of studies and preparing for such times that we are in. So when I see conflict going on the political forefront, and a greater conflict that a lot of people aren't picking up on, that is completely outside of the political forum, the arena. It is that so much anger has started to impact in the hearts of people that it is separating them from the love of Christ and potentially even their salvation. And this becomes very worrisome to me. We have to hit a point of agreeing to disagree and show a mutual respect and to love one another as Christ commanded. He only gave us 2 commandments. These aren't the 10 commandments. The 2 he gave us is to love God the Father of all things first and foremost. And the other one, Pete, like you and I do, is to love one another, period. There's nothing you need to do to deserve or earn a love. That is granted, and you're blessed with that ability to love one another. And forgiveness and understanding that people do fail in life and they make mistakes. But what defines them, Pete, is how they pick themselves up and transgress into a better place of not just their own personal growth and development, but the ability to give back to humankind in a positive and a sovereign way. How do you feel about that, brother?
I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, Iraq, specifically in this case I'm talking about, but that compels you to read the Quran.
Yeah,
all of a sudden,
I have read the Quran.
And you're like, oh, this is in the Bible. Oh, this is in the Bible, or the other way around, however you want to look at it. They share common themes, and we all share these common themes. There's a verse in the Quran. The true servants of the most gracious are those who walk gently on the earth and who, whenever the ignorant addresses them, reply with words of peace.
Beautiful.
That's blessed are the peacemakers. So, and it's not the only time that happens. It happens over and over again. When I was out doing all of the crazy work I was doing, I realized that there are just common denominators for people. In politics, probably isn't one of them, but everybody wants their kids to do well, maybe even better than them. Everybody hates cancer. Everybody is just trying to survive the next day. No matter how good the economy, no matter how bad we're all just like, how do I get through with what I've got? And that is a very common theme. There's all these things that are just commonalities. And if you focus there, who doesn't, if I come up to see you, you want to show me the best of your town. You want to make me your biscuits and gravy. You want to show me your best, right? And I want to do the same thing. And so does some person who's halfway across the world. They just want to host you in a way to show you that their love, their expression of their hosting, abilities. Everybody wants that. And if we allow for that to be the norm, and sure, spend some time in some jaunty, contentious conversations, but keep the root of, I believe in you, you believe in me, we believe in each other.
Yes.
And we're looking out for one another. We might disagree on how to get from A to B. We might disagree on that. But if we can both go to B, and this is one of the things I had to learn, was like, it's not my job to teach you to go to my cultural path to solve a problem. My job when I was in your country is to walk your path and have you show me what that looks like. And we can use a lot more of that cultural understanding, because we're getting there are people that are so crazy about the A's moving to Las Vegas that they can't accept the reality. Their damned lion eyes that there's a stadium being built there.
Yeah.
They cannot comprehend this. And
I just saw an article on that. Crazy.
It is crazy. And so they say the most outlandish things, and there's no convincing them, right? There are people that are, and this is like worse than agree to disagree, because there are people that are so deluded, so far removed, because media, you have to give them a lot of grace, because they, or don't do whatever you want to do. But the amount of misinformation that's out there, it makes it hard to know anything. I mean, I can make a video of you and I. Yeah. And so if we give each other a minute to kind of get over things and to evolve and maybe even consider something, if I told you the most outlandish yet true thing, it's unlikely that you're going to be like, whatever Pete says, I believe no matter what, because you'd be a fool to say that, right? But if 2 weeks later, you're like, you know what, I've been thinking about that thing, Pete, and I did my own investigation. Holy shit, you know what? That's 100% true. As much as I don't like it, it's true. And so I can't move you at my speed to where I'm at. By the way, I have to be able to do the same thing with you. And so I think your creation of a space where people can have that conversation, have time to sit with stuff, look stuff up. I learned about baseball all the time because I write about baseball quite a bit on X. and
Yeah.
they'll disagree with what I have to say. And so I go back to the texts, I go back to the stats, and I look again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing, I now know more about it. And what I knew is now over here, and I'll
Yeah.
evolve, not because the person's changed my mind, but because I've gone back in and I've taken things that I believe versus things that I know. And I've closed the distance between those things. We all have work to do there.
That's an exact reason why I put the last 3 weeks into experimental stage. You are so correct. Whether people agree with our personal thought or want to become argumentative about their thought, thinking that is a supportive issue, what happens is when you create a negative response, if you will, to something that you're disagreeing with, people tend to back away from you because they don't need to hear the negativity. What they're doing is what you just said. They need to see the facts.
Yeah.
And this is a problem we find ourselves with in the media. You can't trust it. There's so much out there that is so misaligned with the truth. It's unbelievable. And I'd like to brush on one example of that. Was, I guess, 2 days ago, Pam Bondi was fired by the president for the Epstein file reason. She wasn't doing what he was expected of her. So he replaces Pam with the attorney that he had sent, his personal attorney, to see Ghislaine Maxwell and talk to her for 2 days in private. And all of a sudden, he's now the attorney general. And yesterday, he made a statement, well, we're no longer going to release the Epstein files because we want to move past that. Well, the problem is our courts have said, release the Epstein files to Congress, unredacted, and then redacted to the public. Okay, we had to accept that and fine. That was law. It was ordered by the courts. And now we have a government standing that is flat out, they don't care what the courts order. Now, what do we do about that? And how do we present that on a platform of equality, if you will, when even the people that are trying to defend it know deep down within themselves that this is wrong? So how do we contain that? And then how do we alter that to where it's beneficial for the people that are trying to protect not releasing the Epstein files when you've got thousands of victims out there that need them to be released for their own healing and self-recovery, and people not challenging their truths, and they don't have to be put through the horrors that they've been put through for the last couple of decades as a result of these monsters that have been hiding, that Epstein purposely created these files on for the purpose of blackmailing and controlling. And brother, this is all over the world. This is not just America. So this right now is one of the main topics I'm dealing with. The other one is the Iran war. You and I are both former veterans, military. We have an understanding that we follow and are compliant to the chain of command, but we're watching good generals being removed every single day for standing up to what they know is constitutionally effective with regard to when they're putting people in harm's way. As a veteran, these are great concerns to me. So let's put it on a platform. Let's hear pros and cons to it. And let's respect one another's side to these issues and have a maturity of understanding that when people say, well, where's the proof? And I present the proof. You know what I went through last year. I spent almost a half a year in those courthouses every single day online, pulling up actual documents, actual credibly deemed credible interviews that were done to rape victims and stuff that when they were little kids. I did all of that. And every bit of that people said was fake news and denied it. And I took it right out of the best, strongest source. You know, I'm a former state licensed private investigator. I understand how important credibility is when you're defending a client in a case, say, as an example. So, yes, I did my very, very best that I could to get truthful and factual information. I did not trust any of the news media sites. I did not trust any of the private podcast sites that were constantly putting stuff out there every day. I went right to the actual sources, originating sources, the courts. So how do you change people from that, Pete? What do you say to them? And I wasn't mean to them. I was not aggressive at all. I'm saying, this is what you requested. Here is the actual evidence. This is the proof. And they'll say, well, that's not evidence. That's just whatever. And I'm going, well, you know what? I've worked in court system quite a bit as an investigator, and this is very good evidence. But they don't want to hear it because their belief in what they're trying to protect or preserve is so grounded that they ignore and remove themselves from truthful information. This is why I created this platform 3 weeks ago. And on a positive note, Pete, I'm watching people from both sides starting to accept and, if anything, understand the probability of why somebody may believe in a different way than they do. and now they're starting to calm their approaches, if you will, down compared to where they were a month ago. And I've gotten a lot of flack on this, Pete. I got to tell you, I get
Good.
beat up. I get beat up. Good. I love you too, bro.
It,
I
it,
get
it
beat
means,
up
it
every.
means you hit a nerve, right? We need to have
Yeah.
these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
But later,
I don't want to.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't want to distract the conversation, but I want to ask you a quick question because I know the answer, and I want you to say the answer. When did God take the burden of everything that was on you? What date was it when that happened? Tell me the month, year, and day.
October 19th, October 19th, 1994 at 3:30.
Okay, so the reason why I say that is because I've heard you tell this story a number of times, right?
Yes.
And you had two inmates separately come in and be like almost like your angels and relieve this burden, right?
Yes.
So if I was to come along to you, or some other person was to come along to you and say, I have documented proof that God does not exist, it's impossible for you to believe that because of your salvation in that moment, right?
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
when we have, and I'm using that as an example because you have absolute belief. And so even if an absolute fact comes, and I'm not saying God doesn't exist, everybody, I'm just using this as a point of reference here, then there's no way to move hell off that position. And so if we have an absolute belief that whatever has happened, like it's a miracle that whatever, like my friend Dave fixed my eyes. I had cataracts and gone. I'm like, it's like a miracle. It's a crazy thing. When you have that absolute belief, you're not going to surrender it because surrendering it would change everything for you. And so folks get wrapped up and they absolutize the beliefs they have politically or militarily or whatever it is. And we have to understand that we all have these things that are probably not as true as we want them to be. I'm not saying God, but I'm just saying we have these things that we're wrong about, right? And so we have to let those folks have that thing. And just like this person believes this, there's someone who loves Donald Trump or someone who hates Donald Trump. That's a passion, and they're not going to let that go. And if let's just say we'll use Donald Trump as an example here. If Donald Trump's election improved the condition of someone's life, if that's how they interpret it, now like my life is better, this person's fighting for me. I saw him say, fight, 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 with this fist in the air. I love that guy to the very end. That's just how that person's going to be. And you should probably talk to them about something else because there's no way for them to let that go. And the other side is like, I see Donald Trump. He is a rapist. He is a pedophile. He's a terrible businessman. He is a cad. He's all these things. That person who, no matter what, Donald Trump, I've seen it. Donald Trump held a baby in his arms with his wife next to him.
Yeah.
And they're like, they got mad at him, right? And so there's people.
Exactly.
So you're never going to change people's hearts on these things. And if you did take on that very essential belief, not going to happen. You might be able to have a wonderful relation with that person. And just like, let's never talk about Donald Trump because it drives both of us crazy. Let's just talk about whatever it is. Like, and I'm going to say this to you right now, and this will be my attempt to do something similar. How you have published 75 episodes of your show. Do you know how rare that is? How remarkable that is?
Thank you, everybody.
This is episode 76. Yeah. It's incredible. And look how excited we can be about this because I know how improbable it was and is. And continuing it is all of this is amazing. The amazing conversations. Wow, 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 wow. So we can have this conversation 100 times. But if we had the Trump versus Trump conversation, we're never going to resolve that. And so instead we have this beautiful conversation about all the people, and we could spend an hour talking about all the incredible people. By the way, I got someone great for you next week. You're going to have the best, as long as our schedules line up on Monday, you're going to be like, yes, 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 yes. And so this is the point
I'll be ready. I'll be ready Monday.
Yes,
you got me, brother.
I know it. Okay. And this is the point I'm trying to make is that if you have an absolute belief and it's in your heart, if your life has been changed by something, it can be a horrible thing. We had Jason Schechterly on the show, the cop who was burned. He had 4th-degree burns, everybody.
Amazing.
That guy will tell you being burned alive made him the person that he is today. And he is the most grateful, wonderful person you can meet.
I loved him. I loved him very much. Yeah.
And so we can do all these things. We can be better and we can walk the earth in a more peaceful manner. I don't like war any more than you do, I don't know what to do about the Iran thing. I'm going to talk about it here in about 40 minutes with Dr. Amber Britton Hale, who's wonderful and smart. She's incredible. And I learn all the time. I talked to a friend of mine who's on the inside of deep inside on the negotiations that are going on between the Trump presidency and the Iranians. And it's challenging. This stuff is not straightforward. What we all think we know is nothing compared to what's actually going on in those rooms and those phone calls. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's one you're going to have to share over to my site once you get that interview done, so I can post it to my followers. I do that with a lot of your shows, Pete. They're just amazing. Some of them are just, ground shaking. They just amaze me that you have people that are willing to open up on some of these platforms, if you will, that we're trying to create. And thank you, by the way, for 75 episodes. You're the one that helped me get the Crisis Victory Show up and running. And I love you so much for it, Pete. It's been amazing to the people that you have brought to my show, the people you have brought for discussion. We look, everybody out here, for people that have survived crisis events and became victorious as a result of survivorship. Sometimes you need people that haven't gone through that, but work with people that have to explain the process. And Pete has been the one finding these kind of guests for me, and I'm just so grateful. And as we're getting ready to close here, Pete, I would like to once again reiterate that this is a holy weekend. This is Good Friday. We're coming into the Easter Sunday. I want to wish everybody on this planet some peace, some harmony, your grace, your faith to be realigned and constructed with positivity. And remember, Jesus told us to go forth and to be the example to all people that are put in front of us. So when we have a moment of anger or a moment of challenging somebody that believes different than we do, that is not the example that Christ is asking us to do. He's saying to love each other. And when you truly get to that point where you can love one another, you learn to listen to one another. And that example Pete gave of me in that holding cell where I was dropped to my knees and gave my life to God on that exact moment, and how God sent in two of what I would consider to be angels, dropped on their knees and put a hand on me and prayed me through my salvation. So that would be my wish to all of you. Those of you that are on my Facebook account, keep sending your strong questions, if you will, and then what you need to have answered and explained. And hopefully one of the other guests on the other side can answer those questions. But most importantly, everybody, show respect for one another. We're not all going to agree on different topics, like Pete was just sharing that a couple of minutes ago. But what we do need to do is become mature in the recognition that, okay, maybe we shouldn't be having this discussion about Donald Trump because we're both hyped up about it. Or maybe we shouldn't be talking about the economy because we're both hyped up about it. That doesn't mean exclude it. What it means is take a step back from it in that moment and then maybe realign at a later time when we're more capable, if you will, to be able to have a discussion. So that being said, that's where I'm at. I want to thank each and every one of you for seeing our show today. Pete, I love you more than you can possibly imagine. You're a wonderful human being. You do so much good. And
thank you.
Yeah, but your shows that you're talking to our veteran family and stuff, and you bring them on the air, I watch them and I listen to them and I see a release, if you will, because you and I are PTSD patients, both of us, with the VA. It's very hard to release. But if we can create a platform like you have done, then we see a healing process beginning in some of our beloved veteran members of our personal family, the veteran family. So that being said, close us out, brother.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.